We continue now at the top of Daf Memtes Amud Aleph in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 49a. The Mishnah says, "Hanoder min ha'mevushel." Let's say somebody takes a neder, he's not going to benefit from items which are cooked. So mutter bitzli uveshaluk. He's mutter to have foods which are roasted or which are shaluk. The Mefarish over here says, "Hanoder min ha'mevushel mutter bitzli uveshaluk." Mevushel karoy. According to the Mefarish, mevushel means it's properly cooked. And what is shaluk? Shaluk is mevushel yoser midai. It is cooked more than necessary. There are other Rishonim who say shaluk in this context means it's actually cooked less than necessary. There are other Rishonim who say the difference between mevushel and shaluk is you cook something with spices. Shaluk is you just put it in water. But whatever the case is, the point of the Mishnah is that if you're noder min ha-mevushel, so then it's osir to have mevushel, but it's mutter to have these other kinds of foods prepared in other fashions, like tzli and shaluk. And the Mishnah continues, Amar, let's say the person says, Konim tavshil she'eni toim. He uses the word tavshil. He says, I'm not going to taste a tavshil. The Mefarish says, Konim tavshil she'eni toim, kol tavshil b'mashma. That sounds like any cooked item. So in such a situation, Asr b'maisa kedeira rach, umutter ba'ava. So he's forbidden to have something which is rach. That would be like a porridge, which is runny, which is moist. But it's mutter for him to have something that is thicker. That is going to be explained in the Gemara. Umutter bebeitza tormuta. He's also mutter to have the egg, the tormuta egg. That will also be explained in the Gemara. Uvedalas haramutza, and the ramutza gourd. That also will be explained. And the Mishnah continues, Hanoder mi maisa kedera. Let's say a person takes a neder from maisa kedera, items which are made in a pot. Ein aser ela mi maisa resachta. So he's only aser things that are roseach, again, things that have moisture, things that are runny. Amar, if the person says konem hayored lekedera she'eni toem, let's say he says anything that goes down into a pot, I'm not going to taste it. So in that case, aser b'chol hamisbashlin bekedera. Then it's aser of anything which was cooked in a kedera. And the Mefarish over here says retachta davar haroseach kagon rote v'chol dedamile. It means to say that it is something which is boiling. If it's something which is boiling and it's rote, for example, it has that moisture, so then it's going to be aser. And the Mishnah continues, Hanoder mi maisa kedera. If a person takes a neder not to partake from maisa kedera, things that are made in a kedera, in a dish, ein aser ella mi maisa retachta. So it's only aser to have items which are boiled. Amar konem hayored lekedera. If the language is things that descended into the dish, she'eni tom, that I'm not going to taste it. So with that phrasing, aser b'chol hamisbashlin b'kedera, then anything that is cooked in a kedera is going to be prohibited. The way the Mefarish understands this is as follows: resachta davar haroseach, again something which is boiling, kagon rote v'chol dedamile, something which is moist or something similar. Hayored lekedera, but if the language is that it was descended into a kedera, demashma bein sonein bein roseach. The Mefarish understands that means it doesn't matter if it's cold or if it's boiling. In both situations, aser b'chol hamisbashlin, he's aser with everything, bein rach bein ave. It doesn't matter if it is runny, it doesn't matter if it is thick. And the Gemara says, Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Yoshia oser. Rabbi Yoshia says it is aser, meaning to say if a person is noder min ha-mevushel, he says he's not going to eat mevushel. According to Rabbi Yoshia, he's not allowed to have tzli and shaluk as well. The Mefarish says, Rabbi Yoshia oser, but tzli uva shaluk, the miskri nami mevushel. According to Rabbi Yoshia, tzli and shaluk, if it's roasted and if it is overcooked, in both of those situations, it is going to be considered like mevushel as well. And the Gemara continues, V'afa pishein rayi ledavar zecher ledavar. Now, even though there's no proof to this, there is a hint to it. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Vayavashlo ha-pesach bo'esh kamishpat. It talks about the karban pesach, and it uses the language of bishul in the pasuk. And so therefore you see that something which is roasted like a karban pesach, something which is tzli, it can be referred to as bishul, meaning the word mevushel really means to say any kind of preparation. It doesn't matter if it's tzli, it doesn't matter if it's shaluk. That's what Rabbi Yoshia would say. And the Gemara continues, Lema b'ha kamiflagi. Let us say that this is the machlokus. The following is the machlokus between our Mishnah and Rabbi Yoshia. The Rabbi Yoshia savar halach achar lashon Torah. Rabbi Yoshia says we follow the language of the Torah. The Torah will use the word bishul to include things that are tzli and shaluk. V'tana di lon savar, but our Tana holds b'nedarim halach achar lashon b'nei adam. When it comes to nedarim, you follow the way that people speak, and the way that people speak, mevushel does not refer to tzli and shaluk. And the Gemara says, Lo, no, the kuli alma b'nedarim halach achar lashon b'nei adam. Really, everybody agrees that when it comes to nedarim, we follow the way that people speak. Mar ki asrei, Omar ki asrei, but each one is following his locale. Biasra the Tana Dilon, in the area where our Tana lived, let Tzli karule Tzli, v'la mevushal karule mevushal. Something Tzli, they refer to it as Tzli. If it's mevushal, they refer to it as mevushal. Biasra the Rabbi Yoshia, but in the area of Rabbi Yoshia, afilu Tzli karu mevushal, even Tzli is referred to as mevushal. But the Gemara says, Va'akra nasivla, but doesn't he bring a pasuk? If really Rabbi Yoshi was just saying, this is what people in my area, that's how they refer to things, so why is Rabbi Yoshi bringing a pasuk? He should simply say that Tzli is included in mevushal, because that's the way that people speak in my area. And the Gemara says, Asmachta bi'alma, the Gemara says he was just bringing a simple support, but really it's not really anything from the pasuk. Again, Rabbi Yoshi prohibits just because that is the way that people spoke in his area. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Konim tavshil v'chulu. If a person takes a konim, that tavshil, that cooked items are prohibited to him. So then if it's something which is thinner, which is more runny, liquidy, that's going to be prohibited. But something which is thicker, like a thick porridge, that is going to be permitted. And the Gemara says, V'misbashel neder, but didn't he take a neder, prohibiting all things that are cooked? So why should it be that a thick porridge is going to be permitted? And the Gemara says, Amar Abaya says, Haitana kol midi de mesachel beirifta tavshel karule. This Tana, anything that is eaten together with bread, that accompanies bread, that's called a tavshil. Things which are more liquidy, which are runny, those accompany bread, those are prohibited. But things which are thicker, like a thick porridge, that would be permitted. People do not eat that with bread. And the Gemara says, V'atanya, we have a brisa that supports this. Hanoder min hatavshil, asr b'chol minei tavshil. If a person makes a neder not to have tavshil, he's forbidden in all tavshil. V'yasr b'tzliu v'shalak v'mevushal, he can't have tzli, shalak, and mevushal. V'yasr b'hitrios rakos sha'achol and ochlin bohen, and he's forbidden to have the hitrios rakos, which is the soft gourds, which the sick individuals eat bohen piton. They eat with them their bread. It accompanies the bread. And so you see from the brisa that when you're talking about tavshil, we're talking about foods that accompany bread. But the Gemara continues, Ini, is this really true that gourds are good for people who are sick? V'ha Rabbi Yirmiyah chalash, but Rabbi Yirmiyah was sick. Al legave hahu asya la'asiu, a certain doctor came up to heal him. Chaza kra demachas bevese, he saw there was gourd in his house. Shav gave an afak, and he abandoned him, and he left. And the doctor said, Omar, he said, Malach Mose Islay Lodin bebese. This individual has a Malach Hamavis in his house, referring to the gourd. V'ano eo la'asa yaseh, and I'm coming up here to heal him. And so you see from here that the gourd is bad for somebody who is ill. And so the Gemara answers, Lokash, it's not difficult. In one case, we're talking about the soft ones. Those are good. In the other case, we're talking about the hard ones. Those are bad for someone who is sick. And the Gemara gives another answer. Rava Bar Ula Amar, Rava Bar Ula says, Ha bikra gufa. In one case, we're talking about the gourd itself. V'ha begavya dekra. In the other case, we're talking about the innards of the gourd. The innards of the gourd are beneficial. The gourd itself is going to be harmful. T'yamar Rav Yehuda, because Rav Yehuda said, Luliva dekra besilka, luliva dekisna bekuscha. He said again, if you have that inner part of the gourd, that's good with beets. If you have the inner part of the flax seeds, that's good with kuscha. That's a kind of a dish made from milk. But this is something which is asr to say in front of an am ha'aretz. And the Mefarish over here says, Luliva dekra besilka, meaning again, tocho shel dalas, the inner part of the gourd, yafa lechol imatardin, that's something that's good to have together with the beets. Luliva dekisna tochen shel zurune pishtan, the inside of the flax seeds, yafim la'achlan bekusach, it's good to eat those with this dairy dish, the kusach. B'davar ze asr liyomer b'fnei am ha'aretz, but this is something that's asr to say to an am ha'aretz. A couple of explanations of that. Mishum dedavar mu'ulahu l'refuah v'asr lomer lehem. One explanation is it's something that is beneficial for healing, and it's forbidden to tell them things that they can benefit from to the Amei Aretz. Some say that the reason we don't tell them is because they're going to consume a lot of it, and they'll end up destroying the flax. We don't want them to destroy the amount of flax product. And the Gemara continues, Rava Amar, Rava says a different answer, Man Cholin Rabbanan. Who are we referring to when we talk about the Cholin, that the sick people, they eat the Hitrios Rakos, they eat the soft gourd? We're actually not referring to sick people, we're referring to the Rabbanan over there. The Rabbanan would eat it, but maybe it's not good for somebody who's actually sick. And the Gemara says, Rava L'taime, Rava here is following his opinion. T'yamar Rava, because Rava says, and the Mefarish over here explains, Cholin Rabbanan Sha'oskin Batorah. The Rabbanan, they learn Torah, Ve'enam Nenim min ha'olam, so they don't derive benefit from the world. They don't take care of their physical bodies in the same fashion as other people. Uboim lidei choli, and that brings them to illness, but they're not actually people who are sick. So again, when we're referring to them, when we say the cholim eat the hitrias rakos, that's referring to the Rabbanon, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis.